Hey guys, Chicken Domain, Debut.com with a Debut.com forecast update. This forecast update effective around 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, September 6, 2018. Want to start you off with a shot at our Twitter account and a pinned tweet that we pinned 3 days ago. We pinned this at 11 a.m. On September 3rd, and this is our first look at Florence. And in the pinned tweet, we showed Florence is actually out of the picture here. Now, I know a lot of you have a hard time understanding my arrows, but the image is still, but the atmosphere is fluid. So if you were to put this particular image from 3 days ago into motion, you would see that here up on the outer banks, there was an old front or a trough that was set up. There was a slight little vorticity spin in here, and that vorticity spin lines all the way back going to, and ironically in this model run, Florence down in here. And what we're showing you with this arrow here is the direction that we think that Florence is coming in the next several days. And that's why we pinned this tweet 3 days ago. And again, we gave you the most recent model runs 3 days ago, the difference between the Euro and the GFS. And we gave you Bermuda being the benchmark. And a couple of other maps that we looked at, this at the time was the visible satellite. I enhanced it, but as you can see, Florence down here in the right-hand corner, and you can see how this is arcing right here. Okay, well, the natural flow of things says it's going this way. And we've already got that. This ended up being Gordon in here. Gordon has now moved up into here. Okay? And so these are the things that have led us to that pinned tweet. Now, this was the upper level winds with Florence. Excuse me, let me move that out of the way. Florence in the bottom right-hand corner and this upper level low that was in here. And so this tells us that the natural flow of things is like this, and that's why you've seen this west-north direction. There still is a shot that this could be a fish storm, but that window is closing. Here's the latest visible satellite imagery of Florence out in the north-central Atlantic. And if I was to put this into motion for you, you would see that the motion here is like this. This is that upper level low, and the flow is like this, hooking up into here, hooking up into here. There's another vorticity spin that's here, one in the middle here. Now this one is interesting because notice how it kind of takes on the shape of a bow in here. That tells us that Florence is coming this way, guys. Okay? And we're going to put this into motion for you in just a few moments. Now, let's go look at 92L. Going to take me a second to blow this up because there's been some changes with 92L and the correlation between Florence and that system. And you can see, dang it. Oh, by the way, I've got construction going on here. So if you hear some banging, that's what that is. But because of the correlation between Florence and 92L, there's been some changes with 92. And it won't allow me to pull it all the way down. But 92L is just out of the right-hand corner of your screen. And so the flow in here is like this. You can honestly say that these two are working in tandem because these are string clouds coming from 92L coming up into the backside of Florence. Now, when I still shotted this image, I also, just a few minutes ago, put on Twitter that you can actually see where Florence has weakened because of shear and other reasons, because the other part of this is 92L. The other way you can look at that is 92L is pulling on the coattails of Florence. Okay, that's another way you could look at that. But Florence is starting to become exposed in here. And I saw a tweet by Hurricane Tracker app that says that the weaker the system gets in here, the more chance that it gets to move to the west. And the UK Met model is suggesting this type of scenario. And you can actually kind of see it in here. There's a trough that's set out in front. Remember we talked about that bow-shaped in here, right here? Okay, there's nothing to say that look at this line right here. that because Florence weakens, she now takes a more westerly track. Now, this is the latitude 20 line right here. Let me zoom back out, because I tweeted earlier this morning too, based on the UK Met, dang it, based on the UK Met, this is the 20 line right here. Latitude 30 runs through Jacksonville, Florida. All right, let me pull this back over now. And again, when I put this into motion for you, you're going to see that the motion is like this. There is no trough. I mean, there is a trough. And you can look here for future. You can look here. Look. Watch here. There's a hook right here. That's what leads us to believe, because the old rule of thumb is always watch tail ends or fronts along stalled or dying fronts for an area of low pressure to develop. But also, sometimes areas of low pressure try to pin themselves to the tail. And so that's what's giving us the indication here. Now for future, look right here. See how this looks like it's got like a little donut hole in here, another donut hole in here, another donut hole in here. Well, the system could come in here like this to the outer banks and then start to lift off towards the northeast in its natural progression. That's what this thing is really supposed to do. If the system was down in here, come up in here and curve back out to sea. Climatology tells us that this thing is supposed to go here and up and to the right. And that's not happening, because when we put this into motion for you, you'll see that the curvature is like that. All right, so here's Florence on a zoomed-in view, and I've slowed this down, but you can see this is this morning's satellite imagery. Again, the time now is 12 o'clock, so depending on what time you're viewing this video, it may not be that time, but you can see that Florence almost got exposed right there for just a second. But it looks like it's covering back up now again with convection. So that has been the forecast for Florence to weaken. But then once it breaks out of the final Sal zone, gets into cleaner air where it can breathe a little bit better and get back towards some warmer water, that's when the re-intensification should occur. Give you the wide view. Again, here it is. Look how this is spinning like this. Okay, this is hooking up into here. This is hooking up into here. A little bit of vorticity spin right there. And Florence is out of your picture. We like to do this because if I put Florence in this picture, you'll be staring at nothing but Florence when you should be looking at this and what the pattern is telling you. Notice how the clouds right here are starting to stream towards Florida like that. So what's going to happen is Florence is going to raise up. Let me find Bermuda for you. Bermuda is right here. We've been talking about Bermuda being a benchmark. And that's, you see how these clouds are rotating as they come through Bermuda? Florence is going to come in here just like this, guys. Now, whether or not she comes in here like this, or whether or not she comes up in here like this to the outer banks, this looks like this is getting ready to become reality, and we're talking about inside 7 days. Okay, so for new followers, we are primarily a surf and maritime forecast, but we like to tell people you don't have to be a surfer or a mariner to follow our forecast, because during hurricane season, we forecast for tropical cyclones. With that said, I've got to take care of my surfing community. Stay tuned as I walk you through this. We'll have a little bit more information on the backside. Okay, surfers, here we go. Here's the latest 24-hour swell forecast out of the Ocean Prediction Center. Front runner swell now coming in from Florence here. The next 24 to 48 hours working towards the coast. So here comes this first bump. At 48 hours, more of an impact. Seas are going to be increasing with Florence. Excess of 30 feet in easterly swell building. Florence would be located right in here in this image. And you can see the swell emanating out front. Now, I did want to back this up for just a second because, look, this is the first signs of winter swell season ahead. And what this is doing here, this is from a large-scale gale or storm force low. I had not had a chance to look, but this put northwest swell in the Atlantic. And one thing I want you to think about, we talked about a possible major swell event. Think about this. Think about the Atlantic as being a bowl. And now we've got swell pushing out of the North Atlantic, wrapping back down into the main development region, and then lifting back up towards the East Coast. day after day, day after day. Here's 72 hours. Again, widespread swell, and then here becomes the interesting part, guys, as Florence starts to move closer to the coast. Zoom this in for you, because Florence's position is now going to be in here, looking at the swell model forecast. And as you can see, the longer periods are starting to stretch out here. Now, this is 15 seconds, probably getting ready to bump into 18 seconds, with seas increasing to excess 33 feet. Okay, switch you over to windy.com and the latest run of the Euro. This is last night's run of the Euro. This starts us off for today, Thursday, going into Friday. Here's Florence right here. Easterly fetch into the backside of Florence. That's what's going to get the swell going. Bump you into Saturday. Well northeast of PR, but look, we've got building easterly fetch behind two tropical systems, 92L invest, and another tropical wave that's moving off. That's likely going to be 93L invest. Again, there's been some changes with this one. We'll have to look what happens in the future. For now, let's focus in on Florence. And you can see Florence on Monday now starts to approach the coast, or excuse me, the backside of Bermuda. But look up here in the northeast along the coast. High pressure digging in with strong east-northeast fetch. So remember that bowl of water we talked about? This is going to be increasing onshore flow in here and onshore swell. That's going to push a lot of water into the rivers and into the inland waterways, guys. This is going into Tuesday. Going into Wednesday, this is Wednesday the 12th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Just inside 7 days, guys. The European model. For those who are hanging on Florence being a fish storm, your window is closing. As far as swell is concerned, again, northeast fetch here. We just already showed you the strong easterly fetch here, and now you've got this monster lurking right here off the Outer Banks. This goes into Thursday the 13th, and I'm going to stop it here. Landfalling tropical cyclone on the Outer Banks. Please remember our pinned tweet. A gale setting up here with 92L or 93L. I did not follow that along too closely. Just right here to the northeast of PR. But this is going to continue with a strong northeast swell and northerly swell aimed at Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, the wind conditions may not be right for you. But for mariners, for people that are going on a cruise, for people that have boating plans, you know, if you're a land lover, this may not affect you, but this is a lot of our followers here. Guys, if you've got plans to be in the Atlantic, now is not the time to do it. I know there's probably a lot of people who don't want to hear me say that, but this is likely, I'll back this up just a little bit, because if this verifies, this is going to be likely seas 35 to 40 feet moving up into the Outer Banks, guys. And although that will have a different effect, you know, you don't think about 35, 40 feet right on the beach. We're talking about seas where the water's deep. But that's going to push a lot of water, and that's going to be a lot of storm surge. That's all I got for you for now, guys. Stay tuned for the next update coming up. Please check our website, Debut.com. We've been lacking on doing text and still images and giving you something to read there. Stay attention to our social feeds for real-time updates. Speaking of that, always verify date and timestamps of post. If it's a post that was posted 48 hours ago or a satellite image that was 48 or 72 hours ago, don't reshare it, guys. You want to make sure that if you're resharing info, that it's the most timely and accurate. Always verify date and timestamps. Thanks for following.